Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 3rd of June. Can't believe it's June already. I'm Thilan Wickramasinghe. I'm the head of research for Maybank Securities here in Singapore. And thank you for joining another edition of Monday Market Picks. Really glad that you can make it today. It's been a very busy and very winning May for a lot of investors, especially in the US. ASEAN stocks have also done pretty well. With most of the ASEAN MSCI, ASEAN index is actually up about 7% since the bottom in November. If you haven't downloaded our newsletter this week, you can do that with the QR code on your screen. So please do that, or you can access it from our app as well. A lot to discuss today. We've got despite the markets actually doing well, Singapore's GDP numbers and export numbers have been a bit choppy. Manufacturing output has been a bit choppy as well. And we've got Hak Bin, who's going to take us through that today. And when we talk about exports and manufacturing, we can't not talk about the tech manufacturing sector in Singapore. And the stocks there have actually had a fairly tough results season. We've got Jarek Seat, who's going to be talking to us on FRENCKEN, where he's still betting that this is going to be a very good prospect for the rest of the year. And he's here to explain why. One of our Opportunity Plus stocks is up 22% since we initiated on that. Jeremy Yap's got a report out on this, and we'll discuss that a little later on in the show. And then finally, we're going to take a quick look at how ESG is shaping some of the investments in ASEAN and what are the opportunities. So let's move on to market movers as we normally do. Dow Jones up 1.5% last week, largely coming from Salesforce results. S&P also staged a late rally on Friday after a more benign inflation report. The Nikkei also continues to power ahead on easy monetary policy, while ASEAN actually took a breather. The KLCI down about 0.5%, Jakarta down about minus 0.9%, and the SET down about 0.4%. But North Asia powering ahead. So something to kind of watch out for, particularly in Southeast Asia as we go forward. At this stage, let's bring Hak Bin on the line. Hak Bin, let's talk about Singapore manufacturing. Singapore's manufacturing sector seems to have been struggling to break out, despite having one of the biggest AI booms around the world. April manufacturing fell minus 1.6% year on year, the second consecutive month of contraction. So, Hak Bin, what do you think is driving this trend? And also, what do you think is the outlook for the manufacturing sector going forward?
Hey, hi, Thilan here. That's right. So manufacturing disappointed, contracted for a second consecutive month. Again, it was the electronics side that declined, but this time at a bit more of a shallower pace. It fell about 1.1%. And again, the main drag came from the semiconductors, which contracted 2.6%. And semiconductors account for a pretty large 41% of manufacturing output and 87% electronics. So it looks like Singapore's semiconductor ecosystem has limited exposure to the global AI boom and has been weighed down by softening demand for auto and industrial chips. But on the bright side, the other parts of electronics were actually pretty encouraging. Computer peripherals and data storage, for example, rebounded by 4.8% in April. Infocomms and consumer electronics went up 11.7%. And other electronic modules and components went up by 19%. So I think there's a sense that global electronics demand is broadening, and I think that should benefit the other parts of electronics for Singapore. We do think that the semiconductor upturn should broaden beyond AI servers, and demand for chips will be supported by new replacement cycles for consumers and businesses for smartphones and PCs. And therefore, semiconductors output should turn positive in the coming quarters. The part that could be a negative could be auto chips, which could be a headwind given China's push for EV makers to source up to 25% of their chips locally instead of foreign sources. China's local auto chip suppliers currently make up about 10%.
Got it. Got it. So brighter outlook going forward, at least at least slowly, as the demand for chips spill over from AI to the other sectors as well. Hak Bin, so at this stage, are you changing any of your forecasts?
We're maintaining our GDP growth forecast at 2.4%. Seems pretty much intact, at the upper half of the government's 1 to 3% range. First quarter GDP growth did come in at 2.7%, despite the manufacturing contraction. And again, it's the services side that is shoring up growth. So even though manufacturing has surprised on the downside, services has exceeded expectations, and services accounts for about 2/3 of GDP. So some of the surprises on the services side is the hospitality. Tourism is booming again with waiver for China tourist visas. The financial sector as well grew pretty strongly. And I think encouraging, we got the loan data as well for April today. And again, it was up for a second consecutive month, 0.8% year on year. And even though our manufacturing export side has somewhat fallen short of expectations, bear in mind that trade is booming in the region. And stuff like the trade-related services sector, including like wholesale trade, our ports and shipping, is actually doing pretty well. And I think that should continue to be so in the coming quarters.
Got it. I did see that there is congestion in the ports in Singapore as well. So it definitely does show that things are cranking up. Hak Bin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thanks then.
Now, and at least a slightly improving or slow improving or improving manufacturing outlook could just be what the doctor ordered for FRENCKEN. And we've got Jarek on the line. Jarek, you recently highlighted that FRENCKEN can be a key beneficiary of the strategic partnership that they have with Applied Materials. Now, what does that actually entail?
Hi, Dylan. Okay, so basically, I think over the past few years, AMAT has been growing quite strongly with FRENCKEN, and I think that especially after the trade, I would say conflict between US and China. So basically, I think all these players are now looking to diversify out of China and looking for Southeast Asia strategic partners who could, manufacture and grow with them. And I think FRENCKEN has been identified as one. So if you look at what has been ongoing, basically FRENCKEN actually rejected a customer for Lam Research because Lam is the competitor of AMAT, and FRENCKEN chooses to actually grow, I would say, together with AMAT. So with that, they actually reserve the excess capacity and everything else for AMAT rather than taking on a new customer in Lam Research, which is AMAT's competitor. And if you look at over the past few years, FRENCKEN has been growing its revenue base with AMAT, except for 2023 when there was a downturn. But other than that, even for this year, and also second half of last year, basically you're looking at contribution from AMAT actually increasing for FRENCKEN. And I think that going forward, also not to forget, ETLA, which is FRENCKEN's subsidiary, actually won one of the best, I would say, manufacturing supplier award given by AMAT for 2023. So basically, with all these signs, we do think that this is one of the key partners for AMAT for Southeast Asia, which is FRENCKEN, and we do think that AMAT continues to do well, which they do, and they are continuing to expand their Singapore operations, with a new facility and all, which they announced, and we do think that FRENCKEN will continue to benefit from this trend.
Got it. Now, they reported their first quarter results recently as well. Anything that you read there, and how do you kind of foresee, your forecast going forward?
Sure. I think if you look at FRENCKEN's result, it is the only bright spark in the Singapore semicon sector, especially for the first, for the key three names. So, like for example, UMS and AEM, I think both of them fared quite badly, and the outlook for both companies are also quite gloom. However, for FRENCKEN, they are guiding that there's likely going to be stronger quarters ahead. So 2Q should be better than 1Q, 3Q should be better than 2Q. And if you look at even their semicon revenue guidance, they are guiding that semicon revenue is expected to grow stronger going forward as well. So that is, I think, a very good sign as compared to what the rest of the peers are guiding in Singapore. And the main growth is mainly coming from ASML and also from AMET, which is their customer in Southeast Asia. So we do think that, the results is actually very optimistic and bullish as compared to the rest of the peers. And it seems that FRENCKEN is the only bright spot among the semicon players in Singapore for now.
Right. Well, you're saying FRENCKEN is the only bright spark, so I have to ask you about the rest of the sector. I mean, do you think there's any sort of silver linings lining up for the sector at all, or if there's any other names that investors should be keeping on the back of their mind as the year progresses?
Sure. I mean, we don't cover this stock, but I think Grand Venture Tech is something that looks interesting as well. It's like a mini FRENCKEN, which is also waiting for customers to ramp up for the second half, but we don't cover the stock yet. We don't cover it. Yeah. So basically, I think that's one that we can look at. For UMS and AEM, I don't think that it's game over for them yet. I think it's more of a wait and see. I think somewhere towards the end of 3Q, 4Q, if their new customer, for example, UMS like Lam Research, ramps up well, that could be, then UMS could be looked upon again. And then for for AEM, it depends a lot on Intel, and also the new customers are looking to ramp up only next year, for next 2 or 3 years. So I think in AEM is more of a next year story, where UMS you can look to see whether second half is there any chance that Lam Research ramps up and for them to win back market share for AMET.
Right. So, I mean, I think the news flow from this sector needs to be very closely monitored. So, please do subscribe to Jarix's research so that you can be up to date and on top of what is happening in the tech manufacturing space in Singapore. Thanks, Jarix, for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's head over to Malaysia. There are some silver linings in the tech manufacturing space there. Jeremy Yap is upping his target price on SAM Engineering to 685 ringgit from 605 following the fourth quarter results. They have a March year end. Now remember, this is a high conviction opportunity plus stock for Maybank. Since Jeremy initiated on this stock, it's up about 22%. But he thinks that there is still a lot more to go because if you look at SAM, they're a contract manufacturer in the semicon equipment space, and they're also a key beneficiary of the chip cycle. So he's raised the FY25 to 26 earnings by around 14% and about 5% for 26. After seeing some higher aerospace revenues, they also have aerospace business and more profit before tax coming in from some of the new plants that are ramping up, plus more orders also coming in from semicon customers, particularly in the first half of 2025. They're also commissioning 2 more plants quite soon. Plus, they should have more profits coming from the acquisition of Aviatron, which concluded in the end of February. So all of this is expected to convert very conservatively to around 18% annualized profit growth over the next 3 years. So those are some pretty punchy numbers coming in from Jeremy. Plus, he thinks that these numbers can actually be upgraded going forward. So, and it's, you're on the right timing in terms of the semicon cycle. Plus, there's new plants coming online as well. So he's reiterating his buy call on SAM Engineering at this stage. So do have a look at his report in our newsletter today. Now, for those of you who are more keen on purpose-driven investments and looking at sustainability and ESG as a primary strategy on your investment portfolio, our sustainability research team has come out with a very comprehensive report just recently. The team is evaluating ASEAN's ESG performance in 2023, and unfortunately, they're finding that the region is not in track to meet its climate goals in 2030 or in 2050. So that's not a good place to start. But having said that, it is ASEAN as a whole is actually getting to an inflection point to scale renewable energy as well as electric vehicles. And here they find that Thailand and Vietnam are really the trailblazers in the region. Some very interesting charts and some very interesting data in the report, which you can have a look. The good news also is that if you look at the 335 stocks that Maybank Securities covers around the region, nearly half of them are reported improvements in their ESG risk scores last year. Now, this is a great sign. We've discussed this before. When you normally have improving ESG risk scores, the stocks actually tend to outperform the peers that don't have as strong ESG risk scores. So this is something to watch out for, particularly some of the biggest improvements, according to this team, they've seen in the banking sector, utilities, as well as real estate. Now, read the full report for a list of the trailblazer companies that they've identified. But some of the companies I would just want to give you a taste that they have included is BCPG in Thailand for utilities, Gamuda IJM in Malaysia, and Bangchak and Thai Oil in Thailand for the industrials, materials, real estate, and oil and gas sector. Ayala Corp in Philippines and Comfort Delgro in Singapore in the automotive sector, Sime Darby in the plantation sector, Sime Darby Plantation that is, and CIMB and DBS in the bank sector. So quite a few names in that report, so please do have a look through that. We are running short of time, so let's have a look at some of the upcoming dates. We've got retail sales for Singapore coming out in a couple of days on the 5th of June. US initial jobless claims coming out on the 6th of June. Unemployment for US, now this is a very key number to watch out for, is coming out on the 7th of June. That'll have a bearing on expectations of when the Fed will cut interest rates. Singapore's own unemployment rate is out on the 14th of June. And the Nordex numbers are coming out on the 17th of June as well. So quite a few, macro numbers out over the next couple of weeks to watch out for. We will have commentary on all of that during our Market Mondays presentation. In terms of events that are coming out, quite a few info sessions coming out. Info session on Winking Studio coming out. This is an invitation-only event, so please do speak to your salesperson if you'd like an invite. We got Elite Commercial REIT virtual event coming out on the 18th of June. I think REITs, haven't been performing particularly well this year, so I think this is a good chance to kind of recalibrate and refresh your views on what is happening. Also, we've got investing in the SRS strategies for the future with Nico Asset Management on the 26th of June. I think that'll be quite an interesting event. You can register for that from the bit.ly link that is on your screen. With that, we are out of time today. I know June is a month of traveling with school holidays and so on. So wherever your travels take you, may you be safe and may you enjoy your travels. And if you do miss our live broadcast, you can always catch us out on YouTube. So you can do that and also subscribe to our research newsletter. Thank you as always for joining us and have a profitable trading week.